This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
I shudder thinking how the world can be so cruel. Lend my voice to those who can. It's time we try, it's time we care, it's time we stand. It starts with a voice.
Welcome to the Special Chronicles Show. My name is Daniel Smrokowski, and I'm the founder of Special Chronicles and a Special Olympics Thousands Travel International Global Messenger. Our website, specialchronicles.com, lives of over 750 episodes absolutely for free, and to follow Special Chronicles on social media, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. A brief programming note, this episode is airing on the 12th of June, 2023, during the final leg of the torch run for the Special Olympics World Games Berlin 2023. This week on the Special Chronicles podcast, our guests are Diane, Vanderkooy, and Amber Lee Dunn from the Law Enforcement Torch Run. Both participated in the world's largest inclusive sports event, Special Olympics World Games Berlin 2023. Diane and Amber are here to talk about what's unique for the Torch Run in 2023 in Germany, and what being selected as Guardians of the Flame on the global stage means to both of them. Please put your virtual hands together as we welcome Diane and Amber on the Special Chronicles podcast on specialchronicles.com. Welcome, Diane and Amber.
That's awesome. I love it.
Awesome. I know so many of our listeners love, actually one listener I had down south said that when she listened to podcasts, she actually a lot of times will applaud when they bring on a guest. So, yeah, we have that. But excited to have you both on the show as we, so this is our road to Berlin in 2023, and I guess we could kind of change it up a little bit and saying that we are lighting the way to Berlin 2023. Like the kind of torch one spin to it. So I've known you, Diane, for quite a few years, and Amber, we just met on, I think we had a prep call a few weeks, days ago. Sorry. Last week, yeah. All the days are blending together. Just imagine it in a month when we're all in Berlin. Anyways, why don't we have you both introduce yourself to our listeners and have you both share how you first got involved in the law enforcement torch run and as well as how you first got involved with our Special Olympics movement. What's your first? Diane and then Amber?
Of course, Diane Vanderkooy. I've got, currently I'm the committee member for Illinois Law Enforcement Torch Run and have been on the committee since 2001 when the Law Enforcement Torch Run program for Illinois State Police was turned over to me by a retiring Lieutenant, Mike Beagles, and I couldn't thank him more for giving me such an opportunity to have a platform to fulfill a passion that I've had my entire life. I was a school teacher before I was a state trooper, and I had a lot of Special Olympic athletes and those with intellectual disabilities and physical disabilities in my classroom. And so I had kind of a niche for it back then. And then I became a state trooper and was introduced to the Law Enforcement Torch Run for Special Olympics, and it was a perfect fit. So from there, that trajectory was involved with opening ceremonies in Bloomington. And my experience was at powerlifting. I befriended a powerlifter who was very, very outgoing, and he had like the biggest lift that he had in his career was a personal best. And I was just standing by in my full uniform, and he's jumping up and down, up and down. He just locked eyes with me. I locked eyes with him. And I'm just like, put my arms out, and he came running over and he picked me up and he goes, I'm Superman. I did such a good job. And I go, yeah, you did. So from there on, I was like totally and all in, and way before that, but that really sealed the deal. So that's my personal experience. And from there, just have grown, not only within the Illinois State Police and the law enforcement torch run, but also have taken on responsibility as a leg leader here in Illinois for the run that goes from all over parts of the state to Bloomington for our opening ceremonies in June. And so that's a 3-day leg. So I can understand the grandeur of the logistics team for the international that they have to go through. Mine's very minor compared to that. But and then also I'm on the community level as a officer with the torch run at spring games and summer games. I was introduced to a lot of families and athletes and other coaches. And one said that when she retires and she moves to Pennsylvania, would I take over the Chatham Chargers? And I'm like, back then, oh yeah, sure, why not? And it was just at that time, 16 athletes, and now we've grown with 2 sports, and we've grown to 64 athletes and 7 sports. So on the local level, I'm involved, and now in the schools, our school district, we pushed for the Unified Champion School program. And now we're up and running with that. So more inclusive within our schools. And now, on the international level, my trajectory, my journey with Special Ed has opened so many doors of wonderfulness and inclusion and meeting such great people like you and Amber. And so it's a good place. So there's my story.
Awesome. And Amber, how you both got involved with the law enforcement torch run, and as well as how you both got involved with our Special Olympics movement?
Okay, so I am Master Sergeant Amber Dunn with the Illinois State Police. I am also on the Special Olympics Illinois Law Enforcement Torch Run statewide committee with Diane. And Diane is actually the person who brought me to the position that I'm in for that. But my involvement with Special Olympics started at the academy. So we do, Diane and I go and we meet with cadets and recruits at the ground level to bring them into this program, because on a day-to-day basis, most law enforcement don't necessarily see the good, and they're not, people aren't excited to see them. So for this, it's, an opportunity to be out there with the athletes, supporting them, and, getting that connection. And people are happy and proud to see you. So I started while I was at the academy. I did a polar plunge athletes, and it was in Springfield. And I believe it was Diane that may have even came and tapped to our class when we were going through the academy. But that polar plunge was incredible. And so from then on, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. And so I stayed. As I, progressed through my career in the department, I stayed attending events, polar plunges, runs, hop on a rooftop and those kinds of things. But it wasn't until in 2018 when Diane reached out to me and said, hey, I'm retired and I really need somebody to take over the coordination of the department, because our department is so large, and, to be able to keep everybody involved with Special Olympics as much as we do, it needs some coordination. And so I took over, not really taking over, because Diane still helps quite a bit, but I do that, coordinating with, all of our officers around the state and others, and trying to ensure that programs are, filled as we need to, and details and things like that. And so it's really been great. It's fun. There was one specific, my, moment was one of the events that I had attended, and one of the athletes came up with their medal, and she's like, do you want to see my medal and you want to take a picture with me? And I'm like, if you don't know yet, Daniel, I am a selfie person. So when she wanted me to take a picture with her, and it was her moment, it's such an amazing feeling. And so you can't help but to want to be involved more and more. And I tell the officers, anyone who's never been, I'm like, go once. All it takes is once, and you'll understand, and you will always come back. So that's my involvement.
Awesome. Well, when we're in Berlin, we'll have to take a selfie. And yeah, I know. I've done the polo plunge a whole bunch of times. My one of my cousins lives in Whiteville, Colorado, and he's actually a police officer. I think a few years ago he became a sergeant, but he's a sergeant with the Whiteville Police Department, and his wife is a special ed teacher, and so I for years been trying to get him involved with the torch run in Colorado, but so hopefully we'll have to share this podcast with my cousin, so so he can get involved. But what's move on, and as you both share kind of your local connection of how you got involved, and the local, as we all know, is the foundation for this movement. And so as you literally light the road to the Berlin 2023 Special Olympics World Games this week, as by the time our listeners hear this week, can you tell us how you both got selected as a part of the International Law Enforcement Torch Run in for the Berlin World Games? Did Diane, you as a team leader, and Amber, you as a torch runner, how did you both get selected?
Go ahead, Amber.
Okay, so as Diane is my mentor in this process, that was one of the things. So she was able to attend different World Games as a runner, and when she came back, just seeing the stories and hearing about, the commitment involved and all that, it just seemed incredible. And so when an opportunity came up for this next one, Diane's like, put your name in the hat. There's no harm. But I think that, the big thing is, they look at the experience that you have. They look at what kind of fundraising you do and different things like that to determine, if you'd be able to do it. And there is a commitment, it's not you're going out there for vacation. So for me, it's a matter of having this opportunity to, go not just to, Berlin and run there, but explaining this. And I'm not sure if you guys know, and I know we're probably going to talk about this later, but this is Berlin's first time, or Germany's first time hosting the World Games. So, to be able to, show the inclusivity of, what law enforcement torch run does for Special Olympics, and, how this program, which again is something they don't have, which we can talk about later as well, but they don't have this, and to be able to go out there and help show them and explain to them what it is that we do and how we support our athletes. And of course, then to go and meet more athletes and more officers from around the world. I mean, when you think about it, each runner is running with other people from other states and other countries. It's just an incredible experience. And I really am just, all about, how do we make this program bigger and better? And that's what it is. It's about, being out there, supporting our athletes, and helping the rest of the world to know how to help them in the best way possible. And obviously, financially is a big way, because without the financial support, how do we keep allowing our athletes to be able to do what they do and do it incredibly? So.
Awesome. We're going to go ahead and take a short break, a 1-minute break. So I can hopefully try to adjust this microphone sound. Hopefully our listeners hear whenever I talk, or whenever my microphone is unmuted, you might hear a buzzing sound. So hopefully we can try to work on fixing that. If not, by the end of this episode, hopefully for future episodes of the pod. But our guests are Diane and Amber from the Law Enforcement Torch Run, as we light the way this week to the largest inclusive sports event, Special Olympics World Games in Berlin 2023. We'll be right back after this short break on SpecialChronicles.com. Support for Special Chronicles comes from listeners like you. As an independent public media podcast, Special Chronicles will always be there for you. Now we're asking you to be there for us. As a nonprofit independent media organization, we can only make programs like Special Chronicles with listener support. Our programs provide weekly, candid, honest, and inspiring conversations about the people with disabilities community that creates awareness, support, and advocacy within each week's episode. Listeners tell us our shows are an enjoyable and necessary podcast for the intellectual and developmental disability community and everyone else who is able to listen to stories about life from a different angle. Please, if you and your family love our weekly podcast, make a one-time, monthly, or annual gift of thanks today. Support this podcast at specialchronicles.com/give. That's specialchronicles.com/give. Our guests, Diane and Ambo from the Law Enforcement Torch One, and hopefully we don't hear a buzz. If we do, it might be me, but I hope I fixed it.
Not yet.
Are we good?
It's
it's all good.
We still hear it? We still hear it, but it's fine? Okay. All right. I think I very quietly, I don't hear it as much as before the break. But anyways, what you hinted at, Ambo, in the last segment is a good transition, and that's why you guys make very good podcast guests, because all about teasing what's coming up in the next segment and giving kind of good transitions from one segment to another. And as many of our listeners know, or soon will get to know, like Diane, you and Ambo, you have known. Within our Special Olympics movement, it's becoming athlete-centric. Instead of an organization for us, it's now led with us Special Olympics athletes. And with that in mind, let's talk about the focus of the Torch One 2023 with having 3 athletes one in with you. Can you both tell us about the Special Olympics athletes that are one in with you this week in Berlin, Germany, as the Special Olympics Flame of Hope travels from Athens, Greece, to Germany to Berlin. And I want to, before we touch on that, a brief kind of one of my friends who you guys know, we were talking yesterday to get ready for this podcast, and see, I don't know if I should bring it up, but it's a podcast, and I hope it's not controversial, but and it's a question that maybe some other listeners may be wondering. As you know, during the 50th anniversary for Special Olympics back in 2018, we unveiled the Tonal Flame of Hope that's social field in Chicago, and we know that a year ago it was lit. But so maybe before we touch on this topic of the 3 athletes, can you maybe comment on why and I would hope the Special Olympics is okay with me asking this, but can you maybe comment on why the Flame of Hope is being lit in Athens, Greece, instead of the Tonal Flame of Hope in Chicago?
I think the torch for World Games is always lit in Athens. That is for the World Games event. They do always. So we are, when you're talking about the Flame of Hope in Chicago,
mm-hmm.
we're looking at USA Games or things like that. That's specifically to the U.S. But this is World Games, so it's always lit in Athens, and then they light the torch. They put it inside the lantern and then fly it to wherever World Games is going to be held. So Athens is the international location where they light the torch. So there's nothing negative or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
That is a very, very good question, because I know a lot of your listeners probably wondering, well, we got a Flame of Hope here.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. And it's kind of cool because it goes in an airplane, that flame, the United Airlines, which is one of our big sponsors and your employer. And we just can't thank them enough for making this all possible. And actually, Amber is going to be in Athens, so that's great. I'm going to be running the torch run here in Illinois, so I wouldn't have been able to go. Otherwise, I would have went too. But because that's important too, to stay on the local level and keep that strong and keep that going forward. So I'm so glad that Amber can represent Illinois going to Athens and flame there. So.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad, Amber, you and Diane, I'm glad you brought up that clarification, because not only did that help with my better understanding, but I'm sure now a lot of our listeners have a better understanding, and that's what we're all about, is not only creating an understanding for our stories, but also about events like this. So now, bringing it back to the original topic, on can you both kind of tell us about the three Special Olympics athletes that are running with you? Because I believe this is, when it comes to a World Games, this is unique. I don't believe any other World Games have had athletes running behind / with you, right?
Right.
I believe this is unique. Yeah. So do you guys want to both kind of comment about the three athletes that will be running with you? You both?
Well, going back to my first experience of getting to be a team member for final leg was in Abu Dhabi, and that's when I was the United Arab Emirates, and we got to run around the 7 Emirates there, and that's when I was exposed to or enlightened and educated about that. We're there for the athletes, and that's the main focus of the final leg in any kind of leg, is that it's all about the athletes. And so we had athletes from all over the world with us in Abu Dhabi, and that's where I got a better understanding of how important it is for our officers to run with an athlete and have them there with you. And they raised monies right alongside with us, and they ran every day with us. They gave speeches with us every day. We had great times in the evening with us. And so now I'm so excited that an opportunity, I was asked to be a team member like Amber was, just on a team. And I was exposed to wonderful people that now I'll be seeing again. I saw him again at the World Games for Florida, and I'm going to be seeing him again in Berlin. So I'm pretty excited about that. So for the athletes, then I was selected to go to Russia, and then COVID hit. So that kind of fell through, but I got an athlete, Andrew Hines. So that I'll start with Andrew. Andrew Hines is from Newfoundland, and it's not Newfoundland or anything. He has taught me how to say Newfoundland. Just say Newfoundland, Diane. So I've got that down straight. So he is an amazing human being. He's in his 30s. He worked for Walmart, stocking and things like that. And so he has a job. And now he works for a tire company in Newfoundland. And we talk pretty much FaceTime each other as much as we can, and keeps me apprised. And he just did not lose hope. He did not lose faith. He kept strong. He kept working out. He kept working on his social media outlets, because he was hoping that he would get another chance to be a runner of the final leg. And guess what happened? He got selected to go to Berlin. So, right? Go, Andrew. So I'm not only excited about finally meeting him in person, but also I have another athlete who's going to be on my team, is Stacy Hall, and she's from Maryland. And Stacy is pretty unique. She's from Maryland and has been an athlete participating. And she's an assistant coach for Special Olympics Harford County Bulldogs Special Olympic team, and volunteers at many events in her county, and at the state level. In 2014, this really told me a lot about her. Stacy volunteered to work at the 2014 U.S. Games in Princeton, New Jersey. So she was exposed to a USA Games back then in 2014. She drove herself, guys. She drove herself on her own dime and got a room at a Bel Air hotel and put herself up in the hotel so that she could be at that event and help national leaders and be on a committee to volunteer at those games. So she just does it. She trains. She's trained in speech writing, which tells me that Maryland has a global messenger program, and writing, public speaking, and other areas of athlete leadership. This includes regional representation at Athlete Congress, whose purpose is to be a forum for athletes, representatives to present recommendations to Special Olympics Maryland, Board of Directors for Organizational Change. Stacy believes, and I quote, "It's time to focus on abilities, not disabilities." Let's give her snaps for that. She cites that opportunity to be an MC at the opening ceremonies of the Summer Games as a highlight of her leadership career. There she helped lead the program in front of over 2,500 people at the Townsend SECU Arena. So Stacy has worked at that. She has also a job that she works at the Aberdeen, and Amber might be able to help me here because I think it's Navy, Aberdeen Proving Ground, as a part of the federal government for the last 28 years. Being employed is important to Stacy as it helps her earn a good wage to support herself and also helps her make new friends. Most recently, Stacy was a reporter for an athlete-led media team that participated in interviews during Baltimore's Fleet Week aboard the USS Leyte Gulf. So she's out there doing kind of fun stuff, leading her Maryland athletes and athlete leadership stuff. So that I'm so excited. I talked to her a few times on the phone, and she is just working out again, just like Andrew is, and I'm sure all the athletes every day getting ready for this final leg in Berlin.
Awesome. And I have lots of friends in Maryland, and we in Illinois we work. We've worked, especially during the pandemic, we worked closely with the Maryland's athlete leadership program. So good friends with a lot of our Maryland friends. And Amber, you want to share a little bit about the three athletes that will be running with you?
So I just have one. I don't have three. So on our team, we have Brett Laza, who's from Southern California. Just a little bit about him. He was born and raised in Southern California. He's got an older brother who lives in Indiana, so a lot closer to us than Southern California. He works at VIP and volunteers at his church. He likes fishing, hiking, biking, and puzzles, and seeing his friends. So like every other person, out getting outside and doing some fun activities. So he has been involved with the Special Olympics in Southern California for 19 years. Part of the things he participates in is like athletics, tennis, floor hockey, floorball, swimming, volleyball, bowling. He advised that basically for the last 9 years, he's been participating in the local torch run. So this will be, a little bit bigger than that and pretty incredible. He does Tipacops, the Big Bear polar plunges, plane poles, and, different kind of fundraisers and things like that. So he's pretty excited. He's going to be able to come to Athens, Greece. I think he said he's been once before in 2015. And he was part of Final Leg in Los Angeles there. So this is a really cool event. He's got a little more experience being able to go to Athens previously, but he has a special connection to law enforcement, which is, how we all do. Once you get involved and you start meeting people, and like Diane said, the people that she met in Abu Dhabi, and then she sees them again at different events, whether you're at a Torch Run International Conference or you're on another run in the U.S. or internationally, they become your family. And so it's pretty incredible. So I'm looking forward to meeting him in person when we get to Athens and in Berlin. So that's going to be on our team. I'm in Team 6.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to comment on a few things that you both said after our next break, and I guess Diane and Amber from the Law Enforcement Touch Fund will be back right here on SpecialChronicles.com. Support for Special Chronicles comes from ComEd. Special Chronicles is proud to partner with the ComEd Energy Force Ambassador Program. The Energy Force is the country's first energy efficiency education program designed for and taught by people with disabilities. ComEd is powering lives, and Wary is powering us here at Special Chronicles to keep the lights on and our technology is powered on. As ComEd powers the lives of us, they are literally giving a voice to people with special needs. We thank ComEd for the generous support of our mission at Special Chronicles. Learn more at specialchronicles.com/ComEd. That's specialchronicles.com/ComEd. Support for Special Chronicles comes from United Airlines Bridge Disability Business Resource Group. Special Chronicles is proud to partner with United Airlines and the Bridge BLG. Bridge BLG is committed to being an ally for all employees and customers with disabilities. Bridge helps to create internal awareness to keep accessibility needs in mind and partner with key organizations to empower disability inclusion for employment and travel. Bridge, connecting people of all abilities. Book your travel today on United.com or on the award-winning United app. Learn more on United's commitment to disability inclusion for employment and travel at specialchronicles.com/United. That's specialchronicles.com/United. Remember to unmute myself? It's always the first episode of 2023. I forgot to unmute myself at the beginning of the episode, and so I guess Diane and Amber from the Law Enforcement Touch Fund as we light the road to Berlin 2023. And I want to comment on a couple things that you both have said. One, Diane, just like you, I was also at the Abu Dhabi World Games as an SSI GM. And so I don't think we saw each other there, but my previous mentor, Chris, we had, so one of the unique things about us SSI GMs is we get to go on stage behind Tim Shriver doing the opening ceremonies. And we had, prior to the actual open ceremonies, we've got a lot of rehearsals because, believe it or not, you actually have to practice on where to stand when you're on stage. And so I think you guys also practice for the opening ceremonies as well. And so my mentor, I think we might have seen you from a distance, but because we had to run the Cutshell bus to go back to the hotel, we really couldn't lose our group. And so
yeah. Am I right? I mean, these final legs, they are timed down to the seconds. I mean, when it's time to go, you better be ready to go.
Yeah.
You're standing here. We were told the same thing, Daniel. That's pretty funny. They had little tape marks for all of us on the ground that no one sees, but it's a big deal because we're on the world stage,
Yeah. So. Well, and as ESPN is the official broadcast, and the open ceremonies will also be on ABC. So for those of you if you are listening to this the week of June 12th, I think that's when I said this episode drops. So June 17th. I don't know what time, but look for your local TV listings. And maybe I'll try to, if you follow Special Chronicles or at PodmanDan, if you follow Special Chronicles on social media. So again, specialchronicles.com for links to follow us. I'll try to put what time the opening ceremonies will be on ABC, so you guys can all tune in because you'll be able to see all of us. Well, there'll be a lot of people, but you can watch the opening ceremonies and see the final leg on ABC on June 17th. I do not know what time, but we will we'll let you know. Anyways, Ambo, I was also in the Los Angeles World Games because I produced a daily podcast. If for those of you listening, if you want to go back, if you go to specialchronicles.com/Berlin 2023, and in that series, if you go back on the episodes of that series and look for LA 2015, you can actually listen to a daily podcast that I did, where not only did it included, like the daily podcast would included interviews I did, but then also I recapped my experiences. So whether we're driving in the car and or at the hotel, like I would like recap my experiences. And so it was a lot of editing, a lot of work every day to do a daily podcast. But
did you meet Brett then?
What? Did I meet? I don't think I met him. That would have been neat, but maybe if there's a chance to meet him, I think that would be a lot of fun. It's always fun to meet fellow athletes across the country, across the globe. But moving right on, because we're already at 35 minutes, and we want to try to keep this to under an hour. So moving on to Berlin and Germany, and I'm going to first have you, Diane, talk about, and then we'll bring you, Ambo, in a moment. But can you share with us what's unique about Special Olympics Germany and the law enforcement coach one? Because in our pre-show, you were telling me that this is the first time that the law enforcement torch one has had athlete involvement with the torch one, and I think what's so powerful and impactful is you guys, when it comes to World Games, you guys go into a city that does not have athlete involvement in the torch one. And can you maybe tell us first briefly about how you're able to how you're able to find how you were able to find a city that does not have athlete involvement, because I'm sure that those although there, because I'm almost thinking what happens if there's a city that there's a World Games in that does have a lot of athlete involvement in the torch one. Can you
So I think where you're getting at is that the SOI, Special Olympics International, really hones in, and also I'm sure with the Shriver family is trying to find countries and avenues of where there isn't that involvement that you're talking about. So in Berlin, we're going to have athletes from not only around the world, but some from Berlin and from Germany. And then officers that have never been exposed to law enforcement torture. And we're there to expose them to the inclusion that you have with the athletes. They do have Special Olympics in Germany, but they don't have that tie-in with officers and athletes. And as Amber said, it's so important that we continue our law enforcement officers contributing to our Special Olympic athletes with the awareness and with all the fundraising that we do. Very simple pillars and missions and objectives that we need to do, and to share that with other countries. Those of us that are coming from programs that are very active is great. That we're not only teaching them, but they're teaching us. So what's unique about this leg is not only that we're going to be bringing on board officers from Berlin, but also communities. I think this is a great new prospect that we're doing, is that it will be the main running group in the front, but then we're going to have a lot of communities that have not seen law enforcement officers running with athletes. And they're going to be a part of this too, running behind us, probably with shirts like you have on. And that started kind of in Florida. Yes, where community groups and other law enforcement officers from the area, friends, family, and everybody got to run behind the actual Final Leg Torch Run runners. So that's going to be really huge. And I guess our very first run, there's going to be over 100 community runners behind us. And that, I just can't even imagine. We're going to be filling the streets with such awareness for what the law enforcement does for Special Olympics. So it's going to be pretty big.
Awesome. I love that the community involvement that you have, because like in talking with a couple people from the LOC, from the local organizing committee, like up to 2 years ago, not all, but from the couple that I've talked to, like they didn't have any involvement in Special Olympics before. So when you guys, with over 100 law enforcement officers combined with athletes, with you guys running through the streets of Berlin, I'm sure there's going to be so many people, because like that's another thing, is that in Berlin, yes, this is the world's largest inclusive sports event, but there's other events going on in Berlin. There will probably be other tourists. There will be just other people that live there that have not been involved in this movement before. So for them to see you guys running and see with all the negativity in society, especially with law enforcement and just overall, for people's health to be changed, for people to kind of see this movement really like not only is the torch going to be shining through the streets, but like, I think that's what's so empowering about this final leg in Berlin. As the slogan says, like unbeatable together, like you're going to be showing how law enforcement and us athletes and this movement, how we are all unbeatable together as we shine a light on inclusion. And so with that, I'm gonna we'll come back to you, Amber, in a moment. But Diane, can you walk us through the week that this episode airs, the 14th through the 17th of June, and is the final leg of the torch run, with the opening ceremonies being on the 17th of June. Can you walk us through the roadmap of how you and the law enforcement torch run teams are running with the Flame of Hope, and what the opening ceremony will look like?
Well, it's all in this special little booklet that we got. It is packed. I kind of Googled if you're a tourist in Berlin, where places you're supposed to go. We are hitting all these spots as runners. We're going to the museums, to the arches, to the parks. I mean, we're going to be everywhere where a tourist would go, and that's a good point to make, that we're going to really hit a lot of people that they're going to go, what is this? And that's what you want. You want those people asking those questions, and that's how we grow. And that's going to be pretty amazing. So the first night we're going to be there. Everybody's going to be arriving in Berlin on the 12th. I'm flying out on the 11th, and Amber's going to be getting in from Athens from there. But we're all meeting on the 12th, and we have then the very next day is kind of a rest day. Everybody's getting a little naps in and getting their self situated, meeting people and meeting their teams. And then there's event preparation. We're going to have our team welcoming dinner on the 13th. And then on the 14th, that Wednesday, we go. And 7:00 a.m., we're on the bus, and we're going to be running a very slow but very huge first leg. It's going to be about 1.5 miles, and it's through some of the old towns and past the town hall and all kind of good stuff like that. So that's going to be our first day, and then we're moving to different avenues, and we're doing about 5 miles each day, but cut into segments. So that's kind of goes from day to day to day. So the 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th, we make it to where the opening ceremonies are. We'll probably be practicing. We'll run to that area, and they'll put us in our places where we need to be standing. We'll probably run through that various times, and then back to the hotel, and then getting ready for that night to put on our uniforms. And usually what they do is bus you back to the opening ceremonies an hour before it happens, and we can walk around in our uniforms and talk to the different countries and exchange pins, patches, lots of selfies, and actually for our law enforcement officers to meet the athletes of the world. So so it's a big, all orchestrated wonderfulness that from day to day, spreading awareness, and then the final night of doing that is just amazing, just amazing.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure all of my camera and a lot of people will probably be joining with you guys and taking selfies as you run. To pull Amber into this conversation, can you, Amber, share with us how is being selected as a law enforcement torch runner at the Special Olympics World Games mean for you? Because I believe you said this is your first time on the global stage. So what does this mean to not only run at the local level, but to be able to have a chance to run with the Flame of Hope at the World Games? What does this all mean to you?
I mean, I think it's incredible. I mean, if you think about, I mean, I'm not competing, but being able to be there and support our athletes, there's just so much, being the person from Illinois. I know Diane is selected as a team leader. She'll be running a team and doing a lot there, but even just to be a runner, selected to represent your state, hey, Special Olympics Illinois is here. Our law enforcement torch run people are here, and make the connections that we make when we're out there. Sometimes you're having a conversation with someone and it's different. It's different than a conversation someone else would have with them. Sometimes it takes, someone with a different experience to be able to connect with someone else, to be able to explain like why this is so important, what it is that we're trying to do. What is the goal of this? Because with Germany, so this is the first time they're ever hosting the Special Olympics World Games, which is incredible. But then to add on top of that is that they want to begin their very own law enforcement torch run. And how do you as an athlete or as a Special Olympics program manager, how do you explain that to officers? Sometimes it takes an officer to an officer to really have that conversation and say, hey, this is why it's so important. And trust me, once they do it, they'll be hooked as well. So it's really important, I think, that we have that peer-to-peer contact. But I mean, to be selected to do this is incredible. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I say that, even though Diane, maybe this is second in a lifetime experience. But, to be able to do this is, it's always best foot forward. Be there, do what you're meant to do. And what we're meant to do is support our athletes. And the best way to do that is to make these connections and get more programs up and running every day. If you can reach out to someone else and, help someone or support that program in any way possible. And sometimes it might just be that we've made this connection, and now through social media or emailing or text messages or something, if they have questions and they have contacts, they have someone they can reach out to, talk about your experiences, talk about their experiences. I'm super excited. I know Diane mentioned Andrew, and him and I already connected. We haven't met yet, but we're already connected on social media, and to be able to connect with a lot of our athletes this way. It's always great when you have someone. I mean, you talked about having a family member in law enforcement in Colorado. Isn't it great to be able to reach out and touch that person and be like, hey, you know what, I'm getting ready to do this experience. And so I'm super humbled by it. I mean, it's one person in the entire state that's representing as a runner. That's incredible. Yeah. And to be able to say that, I'm able to do this, I'm proud and excited and nervous all at the same time. And it is a lot of miles. Diane missed the part where it's 4 legs every day. She said what the total mileage is, but it's a lot of, show up, get on, get the running and, the meeting, the greeting, the talking.
Yeah.
And then back on the bus and let's get to the next stop because you're going to run some more. So a little nervous for all the runs, but I think it'll be fantastic.
It'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
What was kind of cool too is that I've been able to read some of the speeches from the athletes, like Andrew's speech. I got to read in Stacy's speech, and I can hardly wait for the world to hear. Oh my God, I'm reading these things and I'm bawling my eyes out here in my office. I'm just like, oh my God, if it affects me that much, I can hardly wait to hear, how it's going to affect so many other people. Everybody has a message, so that's really cool.
Awesome. Well, you have to, if you post on social media, you have to tag Special Chronicles, so that way I can share that without, like, if we code the speeches and you share it on social media, you'll have to tag Special Chronicles, so that way we can share it with our listeners. And just Amber, what you were saying, and Diane, what you've been saying, on behalf of the over 7,000 athletes competing in Berlin in 190 delegations, and even more than that, on behalf of over 6 million Special Olympics athletes across the globe, it means a lot to us to have your support, to be leading, and to have you join our inclusion revolution means so much to us. So I just want to say that on behalf of the over 6 million athletes across the globe. We're going to take one final break because we got less than 10 minutes left with one final segment and just a few things to wrap up. We'll be back with some final thoughts from Diane and Amber from the Law Enforcement Coach One as we light the flame of hope to the World Games in Berlin in 2023, happening this week in Berlin, Germany. We'll be right back right here on SpecialChronicles.com. Special Chronicles is hosted by PodmanDan Podcast Hosting, the easiest, most affordable option to get started in podcasting. At Special Chronicles, we proudly host our weekly podcast with PodmanDan and highly recommend you use PodmanDan Podcast Hosting to get started in podcasting today. Sign up for an unlimited hosting plan and get 1 month free now to get started in podcasting today when you visit specialchronicles.com/podbean. That's specialchronicles.com/podbean. Our live streams are powered by StreamYard, the easiest way to create professional live streams. StreamYard is a live streaming studio in your browser. Interview guests, share your screen, and much more. Stream directly to Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and other platforms. Sign up for StreamYard today using our StreamYard referral link when you visit specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. That's specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. Well, we've covered a lot in the past 52 minutes in this hour. But the good thing is if our listeners go to specialchronicles.com/Berlin 2023, or just go to specialchronicles.com, click on the Berlin 2023 image there, and you can binge listen to not only this episode but others on our road to Berlin 2023. When you are flying to Berlin, because I'm sure many people are going to be flying, like I know myself and my mentor Karen, we're flying on the 14th of June, and so we arrive on the 15th. I don't know if I should be giving out this much information to our listeners. Fans are going to want to come up. So anyways, the whole point is people can binge listen to not only this episode when they're flying, but the previous episodes. And we'll be dropping episodes weekly in June. But do you both have any final thoughts on your overall time here today on the Special Chronicles show that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Good.
Oh, I was just going to say, the biggest thing is, continue to support our Special Olympics athletes and things like that. We're all out fundraising, participating in these events and things like that locally and internationally. And so, come out, cheer us on. I think they even have, for us, there's a Cheer for USA logo that they have that you can share on your social media. So, cheer on the athletes, support however you can, whether it's saying, good job or whatever, or making a donation, things like that. So the biggest thing is support that. And, we'll be doing, and when I say we, I mean Diane, since I'll be in Athens for the torch lighting ceremony, I won't be home doing our final leg here in Illinois. But, when the officers are coming through and they're running through the towns and things like that, get out there and, line the streets, cheer them on, any of that. It's all, important, because, the more we do that, the more inclusive it is for everybody. Let's include people involved in, in these athletes' adventures, whether they're competing or whether they're, doing different jobs and things like that. That's the biggest thing, is to make sure that everything we're doing is to support them. And so however you can do that, reach out a hand, help somebody. That's all I can say is, let's be more inclusive and work towards a better society overall.
Awesome. And Diane, do you have any final thoughts?
Just piggybacking on that, is just whenever you hear or see anybody that has an intellectual disability or a special need, be their friend. It would just open up our world so much more if you just get to know that person personally, and you remember, you'll find out more or less that you have more things that are in common than not in common. So that's my takeaway. And for us law enforcement officers that are committed to the athletes of our area, of the state, and of the world, we're right where we're supposed to be. And that's the place where we want to be.
Awesome. Well, we are a little bit short on time, but we'll put these links in the show notes. If you want to learn more about the Law Enforcement Torch Run for Special Olympics, LETR.org. You can follow at LETR for us all on social media. You can follow Diane and Amber and the hundreds of others. So you can follow the Torch Run 2023 in Berlin, hashtag LETR for us all on social media. You can follow that. And Illinois LETR is our local program. We'll put all those links in the show notes. And we are just about out of time, but one final question that we conclude with, and that is...
We're not just athletes.
We are the ambassadors of an uprising. Peaceful protesters.
In a rebellion against anyone
who has a fear of difference. Difference. Our demands are
equality,
dignity, and the recognition of our shared humanity.
We will not stop or accept anything less.
Today, our world is
more divided than ever,
and coming together has never been more urgent.
The revolution
is inclusion.
Find out more at jointherevolution.org.
And Diane's taking a selfie. She'll have to text me that selfie on air in the last 2 minutes of the show. But ever since I attended the 2019 Special Olympics World Games in Abu Dhabi, I've been asking all of our guests one final question. I'll do the same with you. As you know, inclusion and inclusion revolution is a big message in our Special Olympics movement, and even here at Special Chronicles. So I'll ask both of you, what does, we've got maybe 30 seconds for you both to answer this, but what does inclusion mean to both of you?
Go ahead, Dan.
Inclusion means bringing everybody to the table that's even and level, and just to be good, kind, and respectful to everyone.
All right. And
awesome.
For me,
and
inclusion is basically what Diane said, but stepping out and not just allowing them to come to, but reaching out and bringing them in. Make sure that everybody has an opportunity by you reaching out and bringing them in. So, we will revolt until we get everybody included.
No, right? We're not done.
Awesome. Well, perfect ways to conclude this conversation. I wish we had more time, but for those of you listening, be sure to keep following the Special Chronicles podcast. Tap that follow button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast, because new episodes on the road to Berlin 2023 drop weekly in June and July. And don't miss our original content that will help you make impactful and inclusive connections in your life. Remember SpecialChronicles.com for links to follow us on social media, stream our archives of over 730 episodes, and have a great week. And until then,
Daniel, to all your viewers, you're amazing. Thank you, for having us here. You're amazing.
Thank you. And until then, we're unbeatable together. Talk to you all next week. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Special Chronicles Podcast. Our podcast was produced by Daniel Smrokowski on the Special Chronicles Network. Follow Special Chronicles on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Subscribe, rate, and review Special Chronicles on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Our website, SpecialChronicles.com, where you can stream our archives of over 500 episodes absolutely for free. Also, there's a list of our favorites, original series, award-winning columns, and blogs. And sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive bonus content delivered to your inbox. Again, SpecialChronicles.com. Special Chronicles is hosted by PodmanDan Podcast Hosting. Our live streams are powered by StreamYard. Thanks, as always, to our business manager, Adam Smrokowski, who always encourages us to never give up. I'm Daniel Smrokowski, back next week with more stories.
Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.